Good afternoon. I'm Susan Carruth from GXN Innovation and 3XN Architects. I want to start by thanking you for having me, and particularly to Lona and Velux for inviting me. So this afternoon, I'll do a very quick introduction to who GXN 3XN are, and then I mostly want to talk to you about this book here, which there are some copies of just outside the room, which is a guide to sustainable building certifications that we published just this year. And I'll speak to you about three things really to do with that. One is our motivations and methods for the book. Secondly, looking, of course, at Active House as a case study, is that chapter in the book, and looking at Green Solutions House as a case study for that. And finally, I'll show you some of the comparisons between Active House and the other certification systems. So first of all, this is our headquarters in Copenhagen, 3XN Architects. We're about 100 people. And this is also our building, and so what maybe makes us, or one of the things that makes us a little bit special is that you can see there that we have a research department, now actually a separate entity called GXN. So we work together quite a lot, and we have very different processes. So if this might be 3XN Architects process, so you have a concept and a brief from a client, and then the final outcome of that is a building. And hopefully, like you can see here, this is the aquarium in Copenhagen. You start with the concept and voila, at the end is pretty much what you asked for. So this is the Sydney Fish Market, and this is the Olympic headquarters, and the Olympic headquarters interior there. So we are architects, but GXN have a slightly different process and approach. So we have an original concept or idea, but the output of that varies a lot, and we're very multidisciplinary in order to do that. So it might be a new material, it might be some code for a robot, or it could be, like you see down there in the corner, a book. And we've published a number of books about cradle to cradle, about circular building economy, and our latest one is the Guide to Sustainable Certifications. So this is the book here, the cover, and it's produced by us at GXN, but it's also a collaboration with the Danish Building Research Institute, Real Dania, and also the Dreyer Foundation. So I like this quote here. It's saying that certifications are important because they kind of normalize what they make, as the quote says, what was once innovative become the norm. And this is extremely important, but what we've found as architects is often that there are an increasing amount of different certifications, and how do you advise a client over which one, what are the differences between them, what are the strengths and weaknesses? So this book really set about to give architects and other people in the industry a tool, a sort of summary comparison guide between these different certification systems. So we began by mapping different certification systems globally. And then we looked at these. Now there are 45 there. And from these 45, some new, some old, some looking at specific sectors, others not, we chose 10. And we chose these 10 partly based on regional importance in Scandinavia, but also looking at some of the big players there as well, such as BREEAM, for example, and LEED. So with these chosen 10, we then set up an evaluation system. So if we want to compare these systems, we have to have a sort of set of metrics that we can apply across all of them, because of course all of these systems have their own means and methods of what they call things and how they categorize. So first of all, we did the classic thing, the three columns or the triple bottom line, what we call dimensions: the social, the environmental, and the economic. And then we split that into 13 what we call aspects. And the method here was essentially It was a lot of legwork to do. So to go through these 10 certifications, list out on a spreadsheet every single criteria, every single indicator, and then reclassify these after we understood what they really were asking and how they were measured. We then classified them into these 13 aspects under the 3 different dimensions. So you can see there are 5 there in environmental, recycling, resources, environmental impact, biodiversity, and toxicity. And under social, health, transport, architecture, which is always a bit of a fuzzy category, social responsibility and safety, and economic there with stability of value, life cycle costing, and area use. So once we had divided these into these categories, that then gave us a means of having a fair comparison between the different certification systems. So I'm going to talk through just now, in particular, the Active House section, which is chapter 1 in the book, and tell you a little bit more about Green Solutions House, which was used as the case study in this chapter. So we begin by giving a real sort of breakdown, a summary of how this particular certification system works. So what's its genesis, what was its motivation, who made it, how has it evolved, what sort of sectors does it apply for, what levels, is it just pass-fail, or do you get different coloured awards, and also things like fee. So the idea is that this is an at-a-glance understanding of what you and your client might need to know in order to, if this is the most suitable system for you. And we also show there, as you can see, how that particular certification system classifies and the sort of principles itself. So you can see the Active House radar there. We then evaluate it in a very sort of user-friendly, succinct way. So first of all there, we discuss the 3 dimensions, the environmental, social, economic. So here you can see that we let you know that environmental is the dominant, then social. And in fact, within environmental and social, what does it say there? Resources and health together make up 4/5 of Active House. So it gives you a sense of how things are weighted and their hierarchy in there. And then we list there, as you can see, the 13 aspects. And do these all apply? Are these all covered by this particular certification? And to what extent, what percentage are they? So there you can see what we have for Active House. And again, reiterating the importance of health and well-being in the resource section under environment. And then we make it graphic. Quite a lot of the work that we do is about making things graphics. It makes an enormous difference to be able to understand something almost intuitively and how user-friendly it is. So this is our wheel for Active House. And so you can see the green, of course, is for environmental, the yellow for social, and the blue for economic. And then we do split that down into the different aspects, so you really get a sense of where the attention is paid. The final sort of section within each chapter for each certification is a case study. And they're really important, not just as a means of sort of saying, well, this has been done here in this part of the world, but to try and understand how that certification system has or has not shaped the design in some way. What's the relationship been? So this is the Green Solution House on Bornholm, and Vinay spoke about this very briefly earlier. And it was actually one of the first, I believe, to get the Active House. And this was also very much a collaborative project, like all of our projects. So GXN worked on it, and with Velux and Leapcraft and SLA, and there were a number of us there working on this. The big question was, could we make sustainability an integral part of the architectural experience? And it's an extension of a hotel and a conversion of a conference centre. In this, it was very much about circular business models here. How could we attract business through being sustainable, having that as a kind of a unique selling point? This, I should just say, is a little show-offy bit. That's the Crown Prince of Denmark there in the middle with Casper. That's my boss on the right. He's in Rome. Yeah, we're all over the place today. It's kind of corners of the world. And the idea was that this building would be a sort of living demonstration, as something that could change over time and really be visible and tangible, these sustainability measures. I think there are around 75 different technologies or approaches that have been used. 5 minutes, so I'll go very fast through those then. So there's material upcycling, that was looking at existing materials on site. There's material filters. Someone also mentioned carpets, evil carpets earlier. So this is a carpet designed to filter particles. Looking at in Bornholm, there's rock, which is very exotic for Denmark. So how we could avoid, and also avoid bitumen in the landscape. We looked at water and soil balance. So the landscape itself was a kind of a wetlands, seasonal wetlands, to look at water management. Living machines with algae. You can see on the right there, these are algae tubes which help filter the water, and a green wall there on the left. And these, as I say, the water management systems. I'm just going super fast through this because the end of it's important. We looked at energy. So these, I think there's something like 5,000 kilowatt hours a year from these balconies with photovoltaics. And also then looking at composting and biochar as a way of fertilizing the landscape and growing plants which are then served in the restaurant. So there's this very visible, very sort of advertised sense of sustainability. But what's important here, aside from these 75, is that I think you can really see where Active House has shaped the design. That being there's a big emphasis on comfort and particularly on daylight. So if you look here, this wasn't just about sticking PVs on top of the roof, but really looking at that daylighting and the integration of that with the energy, so that you really get a sense of the seasons and the times of day as time passes. And here you can see this is the sort of lobby area, which is flooded with daylight and this change in light throughout the day. And also the conference space. So we've been speaking here today about how this environment is behaving. So here daylight is incredibly important and part of the well-being. The other really interesting thing in relation to Active House here has been about establishing a feedback loop. So this is a project that Leapcraft has been working on along with Velux. So looking at not just smart room apps, where you can control and therefore adjust or adapt things, looking at light, temperature, air and water in each of the hotel rooms. So you can see how all the sensors are set up here. And every guest is given an iPad or an iPhone in order to control and learn that. But also these longer term sort of post-occupancy evaluations, tracking the comfort levels in the building, and then tracking those over longer periods of time as well, not just over days, but over years, and how the building can therefore learn. So I think these two things about comfort and about daylight and well-being, you can really see the relationship between Active House and the case study there. And you can see the light blue is the building before refurbishment, and the dark blue is the improvement after the Active House refurbishment. So the comparisons then. The big wheel there on your left, this is an average of all 10 of the certification systems we looked at. And over there on the right, these little small wheels are each of the 10. I put a dotted line to help you around the Active House one. So you can see there are some general trends, for sure. Economic sustainability is always the smallest percentage of the wheel. And environmental does generally still dominate, but you can see that the social is becoming more and more prevalent. What's interesting then, I should say, is that this case study is an Active House, but we also use DGNB. It got a silver in DGNB, which you can see DGNB is actually the biggest in terms of economic sustainability, and with Nordic Swan, which is all about toxicity. So actually in this case, we kind of tried to use different certifications and balancing those, which is an interesting conversation maybe to have. And here then, this is just on the left, Active House, and then on the right, the average one. So you can see more detail there about the differences between them and how they compare. So thank you. As I say, I actually have two books with me. This one I've been talking about, and also this, which is a really excellent book, Daylight and Wellbeing, which goes into a lot more detail about the comfort economy and the Green Solutions House. I left some of those copies outside. Oh, yes. Sorry. Bye. Yes, this is not mine. But also you can download this one certainly for free, open access from our website, so please do that. And the other one too, is that on 3XN as well, or on, no, soon. Yes, so please have a look there. Thank you.